Like a ship at a restless sea, not only does the small nation Armenia navigate the tumultuous geopolitical waters around, but the crew does not get along well. In between stepping closer to the EU and Lavrov's and Mirzoyan's attempt at revisiting Armenia-Russia relations in Yerevan, parliamentarians wage a war of rhetoric. Even fists entered the picture. MP Arthur Khachatrian sits down with me for the opposition's side of the story. Thank you for accepting the invitation.
The pleasure's mine.
As elections approach, parliamentary rhetoric crosses all red lines, swearing, resorting to fists. Are we not adapting to the transition from presidentialism to parliamentarism, or is this a pre-election show?
Well, it has nothing to do with presidential or parliamentarian system of governance. It's basically very low level of political culture and disgustingly low level of management at the parliament. The parliamentary majority, the chairmanship, does not understand its mission. The chairs of the parliament, the speakers, deputy speakers, they have to ensure smooth operations of the parliament, majority and the opposition. They are not microphones. They are not the speaker of the parliamentary majority. They shall manage the sessions. They shall manage the back office operations and not abuse the right of intervention. Every action causes counteraction. If the Prime Minister uses street language, they shall understand that use of street language will have its direct effect. That's all. And it has nothing to do with presidential or parliamentary. But I do agree with you, the closer we get to the elections, the temperature at the parliament, on the floor and behind the screens will go up.
More show coming, obviously.
Well, I wish there were no show. It's indeed very disgusting. It's indeed very unpleasant. But that's the reality that the country faces now. You cannot have a sterile parliament in an unsterile society, in an unsterile environment that was orchestrated and architected by Pashinyan and his crew. They call it the revolution of love, okay, but it was revolution based on hatred. Remember their speech, the language they used back in 2018 and up to now.
Would you not agree that both sides share responsibility? And after all this blame game, does it not halt progress of the country?
Well, I understand that this blame game doesn't lead to a bright future. I understand that. But the level of responsibility is different. We should understand that. The ones who have all the levers at the parliament indeed have higher level of responsibility.
The blame game has been on for a while. Parliamentarians lose temper, accuse each other of corruption. The ruling party often throws a stick at the opposition's political past, which at times is quite questionable and easy to attack. The opposition traditionally blames the ruling party for all the sins of ineffective government. The popular perception is that by staying in politics, the second and the third president's alliances practically prolong the life of the ruling party, since the society votes not for the ruling party, but rather against the former government, today's opposition. Experts, critics maintain that by monopolizing the political field, right, both the opposition factions and the ruling party allow no entrance for any third party. And so this vicious cycle of previous government, present government, will go on forever.
They are funny experts, obviously. There were elections. As a result of the elections, majority and minority factions were formed. What does it mean they don't allow exit or entrance of third parties? I don't understand that. During the last elections, 26 parties and blocs were running. 26. One party and one bloc crossed the threshold. The third one get their seats at the parliament only because the constitution says the parliament shall be comprised of 3/4. Okay, but if the third parties, the guys on the street, want to get into the parliament, they have two options: to raise the temperature on the street, to have this parliament dissolved, snap elections, and new faces in old floor. They shall wait till the next elections come, run for the elections, and try their chance. There is no other way. The humanity, mankind, hasn't invented anything new.
Well, there does seem to be an alternative to a change of power that the opposition themselves turned down, a short-lived attempt at impeachment by the ex-ambassador at large, Edmond Maroukan. Two members of parliament had started an impeachment process against the prime minister. The candidate is Edmond Maroukan, the ex-ambassador at large. Neither of the two opposition factions supported Maroukan. Why?
Well, Maroukan, the former ambassador at large, former member of the same coalition with Nikol Pashinyan, former member, his party I mean, former member of the same opposition faction as with Nikol Pashinyan, his close ally, mainly.
Ex-ally.
Well, during his political career, he was, the larger portion of his political career was with Nikol Pashinyan, and only fragmentarily he was opposition. He was in opposition, then he was appointed as ambassador at large, he became his ally, and now he is opposition again. But we issued a statement which said that unequivocally that we have 28 members only. To succeed, to have the issue discussed on the floor, the initiators need 36 votes. Okay, so 8 votes shall be there for our 28 votes to make a difference. Okay, if they initiated a process, they shall manage the process. At some point in time in my career, I was working in a company who was specialized in process management. Any process has, the beginning, the end, process owners, process participants. This has its rules. We have 28 votes. Okay. If 28 votes are missing only, we can sit down and talk.
The relations between the two opposition factions also seem strained. Why?
Well, we are both opposition to Nikol Pashinyan, to this government. So this brings us together. Do we have differences? Of course we do have differences. If there were no differences, it would be one faction, one party. But there are two factions, and there are at least 3 political blocs, political forces that comprise these factions. Obviously there are differences, but again, I want to reiterate this once again. We are in opposition to Pashinyan, and this brings us together.
A pro-Western ruling party
Do you think
and
they're
a pro-Russian opposition.
Oh, this is
Does your politics drive the rift even deeper?
No. This has nothing to do with reality, okay? Nikol Pashinyan, when he became prime minister, he promised luck, okay? He promised that the people will be happy. He promised happiness in the terms of Jean-Jacques Rousseau's.
A tall order.
Right. But he miserably failed. Then he said, I would bring peace. He thinks he's Neville Chamberlain. But as of this point in time, he's miserably failed again. Azerbaijan is not going to sign anything, and we see how Aliyev and Erdogan treated him in Albania. It was a shame to the whole nation. Shame.
So you believe peace is not happening?
I believe...
Not on your timetable?
I believe that neither Aliyev nor Erdogan want peace. And second, I don't believe that the way Pashinyan tries to accept the peace is wrong. He will not succeed that. This is not the way to get peace.
What's the right way?
The right way, the peace, sustainable peace, shall be based on justice. Shall not be based on a victory of opposite party. At least minimal vital interests of all parties shall be respected. The paper on the table does not guarantee our minimal vital interests. And even more, Azerbaijan doesn't even want to sign this paper. They want to squeeze any possible concessions before they sign this document. And Pashinyan understands that his future political survival depends on this piece of sheet. That's why he's ready to go to any concession. That's a story. So when they say you don't want peace, we say no, we want sustainable peace based on justice and dignity. You want a piece of paper like Chamberlain did to show that to the public and to go for elections. We saw what happened with Chamberlain's peace, in parentheses, and we see that there is no peace in the foreseeable future. Azerbaijan and Turkey will use, even they now drag their tail, they will not sign it in the foreseeable future. And now about Europe and pro-Western, being pro-Western. Let's say this.
Before
Okay.
we pass to the pro-Western or pro-Russian dilemma,
There's no such dilemma.
what is the alternative to establishing peace? Pashinyan sees the solution in signing the peace treaty. What's the formula that the opposition offers to have stability
to start
in South
with,
Caucasus?
the war started when he was in power. Okay, let's fix that. Let's recall that. His speeches, his actions. Remember September 2020 Sardar report. Torpedoing the peace process. All these failures were used by Azerbaijan to launch war. He lost the war, and after the loss of the war, we continue suffering losses. So he speaks about peace, but he brings war. He brings suffering and losses. This means what he does is wrong. The right way is to have sustainable and viable economy that we don't have, having army to have balance, at least with Azerbaijan, and to have
We already
allies.
had military disbalance before the war started, so
No. Look, Pashinyan's speech in July and September, he said we were at par with Azerbaijan. Now with your statement, you say that Pashinyan was a cheat and he lied to the society. I am literally quoting his words. We are at par without military
what do
race.
you yourself say? What does your faction say? Did we have a military disbalance?
We
with
had
Baku or
we had
not?
enough military power to tame Azerbaijan
Why didn't we then?
because he was the head of the country.
Clearly, the opposition lacks faith in the peace process. What's their alternative, though? Is there one?
Now, Europe versus Russia, the dilemma. There is no such a dilemma. The legal grounds of our relations with the West, with Europe, were laid when he was in opposition. I'm talking about CEPA, Comprehensive and Enlarged Partnership Agreement. Now,
Which was a downgraded version of what was to be signed with Europe because the security component was taken out of it.
well, if you are talking about DCFTA, yes, I agree. But Pashinyan is in power for more than 7 years. Had he upgraded CEPA for an inch by an inch? No. Never ever Armenia's trade relations with Europe were at this lower level. Only 4.5% of Armenia's exports were bound for Europe in 2024. Now, Kaya Kallas came to this region visited Azerbaijan, ignored Armenia. Does this mean Armenia has preferential relations with Europe? Everything else is hot air. The reality is 4.5% of trade, of exports, and Kaya Kallas visiting Azerbaijan and then leaving for Moldova. The rest is vanity.
Azerbaijan attacked Armenia, cut off slices from Jermuk. CSTO did not intervene. But we can go on with this blame
Right, okay,
game
I agree. Neither
forever.
CSTO nor NATO or other alliance intervened.
Actually worked. But the question
So this
was,
means that
what's the
Pashinyan...
alternative
Okay.
for
Neither
peace?
CSTO...
For
no,
peace.
Okay, neither CSTO nor NATO nor Shanghai Organization of Cooperation, no military bloc intervened. This means Pashinyan is in isolation. Armenia under Pashinyan's rule is in isolation. This means Armenia's diplomacy had miserably failed.
They will probably say we diversify, we have established strategic partnership with the United States, the
Really?
Netherlands. We're still working in this direction. We have been buying military.
You know, when
We
you
have been
are...
buying weapons
if
from
it
India,
is-
France, etc. But I don't want to go
If
there.
you are... No, hold on. If you are in your eighth year of your reign, you shall not be talking in present continuous terms. What have you done? No one cares about process. People care about product, result. We are doing, we are creating, we are buying, we are forming, we are running, we are striving. What have they done so far? Economy is in downfall. You do not have allies. And you see how you are treated by Azerbaijan and by Turkey.
The West is no ally, obviously.
Well, what do you understand under ally? Kaya Kallas, the lady who is in charge of EU's foreign policy, comes to Azerbaijan, ignores Armenia, goes to Moldova.
But they also call on the sides to sign the peace treaty.
Well, you know...
The US president said they're looking forward to the peace
Fantastic.
treaty
The
to be
US
signed.
president...
The West,
US
Iran.
president...
Is this not all diplomatic effort?
No, because they haven't
is
resulted
it?
to zero result. The first US president had called for peace and stability, did that with Yeltsin back in 93. Then there were 97 statements in Denver, US, French, and Russian presidents. Then L'Aquila, Muskoka, Los Cabos, and Esquil and Deauville, highest level calls.
I agree that statements bear little weight.
Then you contradict your previous statement.
Little weight for Baku, but the diplomatic effort to achieve them is also undeniable.
Okay.
But my question is, what's
So
the
far-
alternative to have peace in place?
No, peace doesn't have alternative. But Azerbaijan doesn't want peace. They want complete capitulation. Look, the Treaty of Versailles.
So what's the
Hold on.
solution the opposition offers?
Look, Treaty of Versailles. Okay, Versailles. It was a peace treaty. It was victory for France, loss for Germany. So the paper on the table is the same sort of treaty. The peace shall be based on the respect of vital interests of both parties. And by the way, many experts, unlike the experts that say that parliamentary majority and minority shall go. I mean, serious experts say that if the text of Versailles Treaty was more balanced, the Second World War may not start. So this is, again, economy, viable economy, sustainable economy, and not economy that is based on re-export and re-import to and from Russia, basically helping Russia to bypass the sanctions. Remember the triple seal statement by 3 American secretaries. Second, flexible diplomacy and skillful diplomacy that will help you to have real friends and not just statements. And viable army. We do not have either. Look, Azerbaijan during the last 5 years after the 44-day war, how many large-scale military exercises have they organized and participated in? 50, 100? Look at Armenia. In how many military exercises Armenia's military forces have participated during the last 5 years? Don't tell me Eagle Partner, because Eagle Partner has a component of crowd management. And not fighting Azeris when they intervene to your country. The better times are coming.
Thank you. Little faith in international community's efforts, no alternative to the peace treaty except for the recipe of rebuilding the country. Harsh evaluations sounds like condensed political pessimism. In times of geopolitical uncertainty, the elections are ahead. The power game is on.